everyone, welcome to your next cooking class. This week's class is about root vegetable purees. Now, root vegetable purees are something that I make all the time, and we began making these on a regular basis when my family stopped eating grains. But if we were to eat grains again, you'd better believe that we would keep eating root vegetable purees. They're so good. Okay, so this is something really easy that you can make when you need a side. So say you've got your protein, you have a vegetable, and you feel like something's missing. Maybe pasta would have taken that place in the past, or rice or something else, and you need something to serve alongside everything else you've got. Root vegetable purees to the rescue. It's super duper simple, and actually it's not limited to root vegetables, but let's start with the roots. You can make them with so many different things, and I've used pretty much every root vegetable imaginable in making these. You can use celeriac or celery root, turnips, which we'll be doing today, rutabaga, and if you're watching from the UK, then it's a Swede, carrots, and then a couple that are missing here that I use all the time are sweet potatoes, of course, and parsnips. So those are also really excellent. Now, there are two other sort of cases that I use the same technique for. One is winter vegetables. So I have a nice winter squash here, a butternut squash. These work awesome for this method. And also cauliflower. Actually, we started with cauliflower before we used root vegetables, and it's a really great mashed potato substitute. So I definitely encourage you to try it and experiment around. So the thing is that there isn't one set recipe for making this, because all of these vegetables are a little bit different. Your tastes are a little bit different. You know, the heat on the stove might be a little bit different. But I just want to show you how you can make them however you want. So it's a technique, it's not a recipe. And I just want to make sure that you have all the information and tools you need to come up with your own root vegetable creations. Okay, before we start cooking one of the purees, I want to go ahead and just tell you about some of my favorite combinations so that maybe you can try those combinations and come up with some of your own. One of my favorites, especially around Thanksgiving time, is celeriac, and actually, I don't have one right here, but an apple or a couple apples. That is a really great combination and the perfect thing for you to bring to Thanksgiving or to make for Christmas dinner. Turnips are one of my very favorite root vegetables for the purees because they have a little bit of a potatoey flavor, but they go so well with any other kind of root vegetable. So if you didn't want to, say, dominate with celeriac flavor, then you could add, 50% turnips, and that would kind of mellow it down a little bit. I also really love to add carrots. Tonight we're going to do turnip and carrot puree, and that way it's not pure carrot, and that would be too sweet, at least for my tastes. So using turnips that way is great. Rutabaga is super versatile too, kind of like turnips. So it's great to add other things too and just kind of spice it up a little bit. Of course, you could surprise your family and use some beetroot and make a hot pink puree. So that would be really fun to do beets and turnips. And then when I do squashes and even sweet potatoes, sometimes I like to add some ginger while it's cooking and then puree the ginger up as well. And you can add a little cinnamon or something like that to make it, again, kind of festive in flavors like Christmas or Thanksgiving. With the cauliflower, you could make like a faux garlic mashed potato by just putting in a few whole cloves of garlic, peeled, and then pureeing that right in there too. So there are lots and lots of different ways to make these purees, and just use your imagination and try different combinations. Okay, so let's talk about ingredients for the turnip and carrot puree that we're making tonight. Of course, you will need carrots and turnips. Peel them, chop them up roughly. It doesn't need to be fine because they're going to get steamed to be really soft. You need an acid of some kind. I like to use lemon juice. You could use apple cider vinegar. In the case of making, say, apple and celeriac puree, a tart apple would probably balance those flavors, so you might not need it. And then butter. And right now I happen to have lots of ghee on hand, so I'm going to use ghee. You could also use coconut oil or another animal fat that you prefer. It's up to you. And then if you don't have any broth on hand, you can use water. But of course, if you do have bone broth on hand, then that is a way to get more flavor and more nutrition into this little side dish. So I'm going to be using some beef broth. And then just to finish things off, you'll need pepper and salt. And those are the ingredients. Okay, let's start putting this together. The prep time is really simple, peeling and chopping the vegetables. Okay, so then go ahead and add your vegetables. Whoops. And I didn't give you exact amounts of vegetables, and that is just because I want you to be able to make this with whatever you have. I don't want you to feel like you have to have exact amounts of everything. This is super flexible. So one thing is with the liquid. I'm going to go ahead and put, I think this is about 2 cups in the pot. And you know what, that might be too much, but it's not a problem because when the vegetables are tender, I can go ahead and pour it back out. And since, whoo, getting crazy in here, since it is a really good bone broth, I'll probably save it and use it again. And it's not a big deal. If it was water, pour it right out into the sink. So I don't want you to feel like it is more complicated than it needs to be. It's not. It's really simple. And you get to taste it and adjust, and it's going to be easy, okay? So I've got my vegetables in the pot. I'm going to add my broth. And that is some good bone broth. See how solid it is? That's exciting. So I'm going to go ahead and add that. And then I'll put the lid on and put it on the stove, and I'm going to put it over about medium-high heat. I'm going to cook it for about, I'd say 10 to 15 minutes. I'm going to check on it, poke a fork in it, see if it is fork tender, and when it is, then I know it's time to move on to the next stage. So I'll be back in just a minute showing you what that looks like. Okay, so time is up and the root vegetables are cooked till tender. I'll show you what that looks like. Okay. All right. So the turnips are nice and soft. The carrots are a little more firm, and one little trick, if you know that one vegetable is more dense than the other, and some special steam effects here. If you know one vegetable is more dense than the other, it's going to take longer to cook, then cut it smaller, and that will speed up the cooking. So the carrots are more firm, but they are breaking apart with a fork, so I am happy with that. Now, as I mentioned, it is a little more liquid than I needed, so I'm going to go ahead and recover some of that good stock, which of course now is flavored with these good root vegetables, so that'll be great next time around. So I'm just going to pour off the extra liquid, and of course if this is water, dump it into the sink. No big deal. Okay, a little bit of liquid left is just fine. So now we're ready to add some stuff. So ghee. You know, we are really generous with the fats around here. We have pushed it too far, but I think that was like, you know, a half a cup of butter to 1 head of cauliflower. That was quite gratuitous. It tasted great, but we could only eat like 2 bites of it. So I'm going to put probably, oh, I'd say that's just under a 1/4 cup of butter. And of course, you can always add more if you don't have enough. So salt is going in there. I'm going to estimate that this is about 2 teaspoons. Get about half of the juice of a lemon, okay, and just make sure you don't get the seeds in there. And then some grinded pepper. All right, and that's it. So now what I'm going to do is blend it with my immersion blender. I love this appliance and use it all the time. You could also get it done in a food processor or a blender, but it's just harder because you're transferring hot stuff back and forth from another appliance. So my cord isn't long enough to do it here where you can see, so I'm going to go ahead and blend this and come back and show you what we have. Okay, so we've got the puree all blended up, and this is what it looks like. I just love the color. I think this is a great way to bring some extra color to your table. And it is nice and creamy and even. You can make it however you like. It can be chunkier or it can be ultra smooth. It's up to you how much time you want to spend blending it. Now, important step, I have tasted it just to see if I needed to adjust the seasonings. And of course, the most common things that I would need to do are add salt or add some acid, lemon juice or whatever you're using for acid. So I like the way mine tastes, so I'm ready to serve it up. And one thing I do want to add is that these purees freeze really beautifully. So if you've got a lot of something on hand and you're about to make some, why not double the recipe? Just make what you've got. Well, it's not really a recipe, of course, is it? You just make what you can with everything that you have, and then you can freeze it, and you'll be so thankful that you did. So anyway, let's go ahead and taste this. It's really nice and fluffy. It's really good. It's really creamy. And then you get the carrot and you get the turnip. It's not too sweet. It has that little bit of potatoey flavor from the turnip. And it's total comfort food. It is so delicious. And I think your family's really going to love it. And you will too. Okay, so that's the lesson on making root vegetable purees. I hope you'll try these techniques, and I hope you'll try lots of different vegetables and combinations, because I think you could have a lot of fun with it. So I hope this is helpful for you, and thank you for coming to my kitchen to learn something new.